I'm sitting in this quiet house now. The air feels different, like it's all caught in a memory. The walls here have watched my life unfold like a story written in ink that's fading. They saw me raise him. Tobias, my only son. He was everything to me. When he was a baby, I'd hold him close, rock him to sleep, and promise him the world. I thought that would be enough. I thought he'd grow up, a good boy, the kind who remembers his mother. And he did, for a time. But now, here I am, sitting alone, the world moving past me like I'm invisible. It wasn't always this way, no. There was a time when Tobias called me Mom with love, not with a hint of disgust. A time when we'd laugh together, when he'd bring home his schoolwork and I'd help him with every little thing he needed. But somewhere along the way, he stopped needing me. He grew up, sure, but it wasn't the way I imagined. He grew cold like his father, Michael, who couldn't stand the weight of a family and left when Tobias was just a boy. I told him it was work that made Michael leave, that he was just tired, but I knew better. Michael never wanted this life. He left me alone in a house full of silence, and for years, I carried that alone. But Tobias, he didn't leave, not in the same way. He stayed physically, but he left emotionally. It happened the day before his wedding. He told me I was too ugly to be seen at his wedding. His fiancée, Kendra, said if I showed up, they'd put me in a nursing home before the vows were exchanged. The words stung, but they didn't break me. They didn't. I had been through worse. I had been through things he couldn't imagine. He thought I was weak. He thought I had nothing left to fight with, but I did. I had a secret that he would never know about. It was buried deep inside me. Something I had worked for. Something I had built quietly over the years. It was mine, and I would take it back. That day, I decided. That day, I would show them that they didn't know me at all. I wore my lavender blouse, the one with the little pearls. He used to play with them when he was a child, and I pinned on the earrings he gave me for Mother's Day when he was 12. I looked at myself in the mirror, and saw someone different than the one I had become. I saw the woman who had loved him without question, who had given everything for him. I smiled because I was still his mother, and in some way, I still believed that meant something. But when he walked in, the confidence, the continent, wasn't my son I saw. It was a stranger, and he barely glanced at the cookies I had set out, or the tea, which he used to beg for when he was little. He sat down like he had somewhere better to be. And then, with cold indifference, he told me, "I think it's better if you don't come to the wedding." He said it like it was a favor, like he was doing me a kindness by sparing me the trouble. My heart cracked just a little, but I stayed calm. I asked him, "What do you mean?" And he explained, like I was some sort of inconvenience. "It's a curated event," he said, his voice distant, modern, clean, minimal. Kendra stood at the door, cold as ice, not even sparing me a glance. She didn't want me there, in their perfect little world. She didn't want the reality of me, of everything I had given them, to be a part of their picture-perfect day. My son, my only son, didn't even try to defend me. He stood with her, and I was left alone, just like that. I asked to be there, to sit in the back, to just watch him marry the woman he had chosen. But it wasn't enough for them. Kendra wanted more. She wanted to make sure I understood my place. "We've already finalized everything," she said. "It's about the vibe." She meant it in the coldest way. She looked me up and down like I was something to be discarded. She talked about a nursing home, about long-term care. And Tobias, my own son, just stood there. He said it out loud. "This is why Dad left you." The words hit me like a hammer, and I froze. He didn't see me. He never did. I had given him everything I had, but it wasn't enough. The words stung, but I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I stood, walked to the window, and watched their car pull away. And in that silence, I whispered to the empty room, "Thank you for showing me who you really are." I reached for the scarf at my neck and tightened it. It wasn't covering shame anymore. It was holding me together, because something had shifted in me. I had something to finish now. Something Tobias was going to learn, whether he wanted to or not. The night was quiet. The house felt too dark, as if the shadows were listening. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I just sat in my flannel robe, my hands folded in my lap, breathing slow and shallow. I stared out at the streetlight blinking. The light I used to watch Tobias walk home beneath when he was a boy, always hungry, always talking. Now it was just me and the weight of everything Tobias had said. I knew it wasn't my fault. I knew he wasn't the boy I had raised anymore. He had turned into someone else, someone who couldn't see past himself. That night, I found the folder, my final will, my life savings, the properties, the bank accounts, everything I had built for them, for him. But it wasn't for him anymore. I tore the will in half, then in quarters, then in eighths. And when I did, I felt lighter, like the air had returned to the room. The next morning, I called Monique, my oldest friend, my lawyer. She knew everything, had known me since I was a girl, since before all of this. She answered, sleep heavy in her voice, and I told her I needed her to bring the new documents. I was ready to make my move. It wasn't about revenge. It was about taking back what was mine. I wrote a new letter, not to Tobias, but to the Rose House Foundation, a women's shelter for elderly women abandoned by their families. I volunteered there once, when I was younger. They're me now. The women no one visits. The women people forget. I finished my toast and began drafting my final instructions. The house, my properties, everything would go to the foundation. The salon I owned would stay open under Sheila's name. And when I was gone, my accounts would transfer. No funeral, no obituary, just a letter to Tobias, explaining everything. Monique brought the documents. We sat at the table, and I signed them. I signed everything. And when I did, I knew there would be no turning back. The house would be theirs now. The shelters, not his. I wasn't angry anymore. I was at peace. I sat in the car with Monique as we drove to the wedding. The vineyard was stunning. Rows of green vines stretched into the hills. Guests mingled beneath white tents, dressed in pastel and champagne colors. I took it all in. I knew Tobias was trying to create his perfect day. But I wasn't part of that world anymore. I sat quietly in the third row, just as they asked. No one recognized me. No one knew that I had built this moment. They had no idea that without me, none of it would be possible. I watched the ceremony, watched Tobias walk down the aisle like he was the proudest man alive. He didn't look my way. He didn't even acknowledge me. And when the vows were exchanged, when the pictures were taken, Monique stood up. She walked toward Tobias and handed him the envelope. The same envelope that would change everything. I watched him, his expression changing as he read the contents. The panic in his eyes, the disbelief. The guests noticed, but there was nothing they could do. I was already gone. The woman in the scarf, the one who had been erased, was no longer there. Monique came back to my side. Done, she said quietly. I stood slowly, cane in hand, and walked toward the car. Tobias stood frozen. He was alone now. No one had noticed what I had done until it was too late. The car was quiet as we drove away. I didn't need to see the aftermath. I knew what it meant. Tobias had tried to erase me, but he couldn't. I was still here, still alive in my own way. And when I left, I didn't look back. I walked away from that life, from everything that didn't matter anymore. Now, I live somewhere new, a small village in Spain. I walk through the streets with a wool blanket across my knees, sipping tea and living. I don't think about the past anymore. I don't need to. The people here know me as Ellie, and when I think of Tobias, I know he's out there, somewhere, lost. And I'm here, at peace. They thought I was gone, but I was living, and now, the world knows my name.